honorable ministers of the council, members of the media, radio listeners via St. Martin of Radio 107.9 FM, Telems Tel TV Plus Channel 15, respective radio stations island-wide, and online viewers. I'm Rolika Roach, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister of Public Health, Social Development, and Labor, Omar Otley, to address you. Minister Otley, you have the floor.
Good morning. Blessed day to the Honorable Prime Minister, member of the media, and the DCOM staff. I would like to start by saying, first of all, I'm happy to announce that the STEP survey, which will be a survey to determine the non-communicable disease that's growing in St. Martin. Non-communicable diseases are stuff as diabetes, cancer, hypertension, and those things. The last survey was done in 2015, so I'm happy that under my tenure we can now do the STEP survey in collaboration with PAHO. We will target 9 districts of that St. Martin from ages 18 to 69 by district. We are going to start in July through September 2023. The evaluation will take place in October 2023. This will be definitely a good way to determine how healthy is St. Martin and help us to definitely tackle the non-communicable diseases that plague our community in which COVID has exposed. I'm also happy to announce I would like to say it's history. The ministry, SZV, and SMD, St. Martin Diagnostic Center, has made history by allowing the after-hour GP care. This has been something that St. Martin needs. We go to the medical center and they are overrun. What happens? No fault to the medical center. I have been there, have analyzed and assessed the situation. Medical center would have 5 to 7 beds, and the amount of persons that need care are just too much, and they would have to prioritize based on emergent priority. So what would happen now? The St. Martin Diagnostic Center, which is located over the hill, better known as Denouise Clinic, will be open from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. What this does is allow persons in the community of St. Martin for non-emergent urgent care, which is like no shot, no gun wound, no stab wound, but heart attacks, but stuff where you would see a GP's not feeling well, faintish, a broken finger, a broken toe, stuff that would take you to the emergency room and build up this weight. We will no longer have to deal with that because we have created another option. This will be a 6-month pilot to see how it goes. We hope that the public make use of it. Please, I would like to reiterate, it is non-emergent urgent care. It's for your basic needs. If you cannot wait to the next day to see your GP, you can see your GP between 6 p.m. and 12 a.m. I'm extremely happy. I'm also extremely happy to announce that the CoM has passed the legislation, allowed me the mandate to sign the MOU with the CIBG. This is the accreditation body that the ministry will now send evaluations from non-BIC registered doctors to be evaluated and be able to work in St. Martin. So now all of the stress for many years we have complained about us sending our people to Colombia and Santo Domingo and so forth, and these doctors not being able to work in St. Martin. This is finally the opportunity. Once they meet the requirements and the evaluation from the CIBG, they will be able to work in St. Martin. So now we are expanding our pool for medical professionals. You will no longer have to be BIC registered, but you would have to meet the qualifications at least of a BIC registration. I'm also happy to speak to update the media on some of the stuff that are pending. We have the amendment to the Civil Code and to finally what we think will curb the abuse of the short-term contract. That is now at the SER. So the quicker we get through and with the resolutions of the issues with the SER, the quicker we can get a lot of laws going. We also are proud to know that the SZV 1B is on its way to come. SZV 1B will allow the NADA report, the final final aspect is on its way to come. This will allow us to have insurance for AIM and ZAC insurance. This will formalize the referrals abroad. This will formalize the 62 plus insurance, which we do now on a humanitarian basis. But this will formalize these stuff in which will put SZV in a positive light. I look forward to any other questions from the media. It's been a while, so I'm sure I have some questions. So I look forward to that. Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Minister Otley, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, Silveria Jacobs, to address you. Prime Minister Jacobs, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Rolika. Good morning to my colleague, Minister Otley, to the members of the media, to you, of course, Rolika, and the DCOM staff, as well as to all St. Martiners and others, visitors, residents alike, as well as those in the diaspora, following this broadcast for updates on St. Martin. I hope that today finds all well. It's Wednesday. People like to celebrate Home Day. We're halfway there. Indeed, it's been a packed week after returning from my travels, and so I wish all a productive, continued week ahead, filled with hope. We must continue to remain vigilant and prepared for all the challenges that still arise on a daily basis. As you know, we are living on a beautiful tropical island with all that comes with it, as we are all monitoring the movement of the inclement weather system known as Tropical Storm Brett. The Met Office continues to monitor and update on a regular basis, and all are asked to either go to meteo.com, www.meteosxm.com, or on their Facebook page, or of course the government's Facebook page and website. Tropical Storm Brett continues to move west and is expected at its closest point to us to be at 255 miles south-southwest on Friday morning. So we continue to be vigilant. It is expected still up until this point to pass way west of us, south of us, sorry. But as we know with weather, things can change. So continue to monitor. I do believe we put out the 5 a.m., 11 a.m., and 5 p.m. updates. So after that time, you can always check online and pay attention to what's happening. Of course, always ensuring that you are prepared, your family is prepared, your business is prepared, and that you have a plan. Every week I come here and I remind you where to find it. So I'm just going to say, go to government's website, go to government's Facebook page for the disaster management and hurricane updates, and you will find a checklist for you and your family. Continue to show unity, looking out for our neighbors, as the collective spirit that we have shown as St. Martin has always been a pillar of strength. Of course, I extend deepest condolences to all those families going through bereavement of lost loved ones, colleagues, etc. We ask you to stand on God's strength and grace. He will give you what is needed to go through this difficult time. This does not mean it's not going to be difficult, but you just accept the realities and trust on Him to take you through it, and lean on family and friends as well. We also have congratulatory statements that must at this time go out. We're in the month of June. Since May, we've been having quite a few announcements of graduations and great achievements of our people, both here at home and abroad. And so in visiting or being a guest at the USM graduation last Saturday, upon my arrival, I must say it was a proud moment to see all the educators as well as secondary school getting their teaching certificates. And of course, hearing the riveting speech of Dr. Yadira Boston, who had her start at USM, first working diligently after high school and then getting a job there. And it shows there that resilience, hard work, and continuing to pursue your dream no matter what gets you where you need to be. So congratulations to all of the graduates at USM, all the elementary graduates. I know the MAC had theirs yesterday. Congratulations to all of you. You've completed one big hurdle, but in the interest of being continuous learners, lifelong learners, see it as a stepping stone towards continued development and continue to upgrade yourselves. Never let anyone or anything hinder your pursuit of excellence. Congratulations. St. Martin is proud of you. Just a reminder that Civil Registry is currently still going through the cleaning of their system, so do ensure that your registrations are up to date and that it's not just for bureaucracy, but for your best will, your identity, and legal standing within our community. I did put out a couple of press statements on my travel to the Netherlands, but I must highlight that though the main goal in going was to meet with our French and deal with the agreements that had been worked on diligently over the past years, I was able to take the time to meet with several ministers, the Minister of Health, your colleague, Minister, to also, most of the conversations centered around slavery past and what comes after the comma, as well as our finances, how St. Martin is doing. Everybody was really interested in that, and how these different ministries can assist us in seeing their relations. So the Minister of Health was very, very open to looking at what programs and projects to collaborate with our colleagues here within the Caribbean part of the kingdom to ensure that the health effects that Minister just spoke about, those non-communicable diseases, that we can clearly link that we as Caribbean people and Black people in general have a higher incidence of based on our slavery past, based on what we ate, etc. So they recognize and acknowledge that and look forward to working with us. I also met with Minister Dijkgraaf of OCW, Education, Culture, and Science, who is collaborating strongly with St. Martin, continuing to do so, especially at tertiary levels at this moment. And in exchange, we even discuss ways of making it more feasible for our students to come back home. So that was a great discussion as well. The Kingdom Relations Committee also met and was keen on finding out how St. Martin is doing, etc. And we will be following up with further information in response to some current ongoing matters with Basic CAD, the Ministry of the Interior and Kingdom Relations, our financial position, the loans, as well as all that is coming after the comma and how it is all working out, our access to the different funds, etc. So I must say it was a fruitful business travel in which we can look forward to what comes next. We were able to sign off on 2 agreements. We'd hoped for more, but there were some glitches here and there, which we will continue to deliberate with the French, knowing that we are not just dealing with the collectivité, we're also dealing with the state of France. And sometimes there's a misunderstanding as to the authorities when you talk to the European parts, because they don't have the same authorities within St. Martin. So that will continue to be a work in progress, but I must say we've come a long way, and we will be collaborating. We agreed to collaborate further on areas such as health, utilities. We've already started where water is concerned, wastewater, waste management, renewable energy, and the like. As we know, the Gale doesn't stop at the border, so the more we can collaborate, the better for all our people. The Ministry of General Affairs, via the Department of BUC and the Office of Disaster Management, which falls within the Fire Department, is currently, together with VNGI, executing a hurricane exercise called HUREX training and evaluation this week to ensure the preparedness of St. Martin's response to hurricanes as well as other types of disasters under the project Fostering Resilient Crisis Management, FRCM. I had a training myself, I must say, in chairing the EOC, and so I look forward to the outcome of these trainings as we continue to prepare with specific scenarios. It is expected to be quite a busy, above average hurricane season for 2023, and so therefore staying prepared, working out all those projects that we have currently ongoing where disaster risk management is concerned is a must for St. Martin. With that being said, I'll leave the floor now for any questions that may come from the media.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs. If you've just joined us, you are watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. Thank you so much for joining us. We now move on to the question and answer session. Bibi Hart Shah of SMN News, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolika. Good morning, ministers. Good morning, colleagues. My first question is to the Minister of VSR, Minister Otley. Minister Otley, can you shed some light into the situation regarding the employers' organization that filed a complaint with the ILO, saying that the social economic issues on St. Martin are not sufficiently dealt with. There hardly ever any meetings, and also about their concerns regarding the new committee established for the SARE.
Thank you very much. I'm glad for the opportunity to address this. I also saw the article in the paper today. I would say a pretty nice article. Just, I guess the heading was to sell papers because it don't match up. But anyway, I will gladly bring and shed light to the situation. As stated, what is very important and stated in my speech to the ILO and in my article, this is not a combative moment. This is a moment for us to address the issues in St. Martin and do it right. Now, the ECSM, if I may speak, did not act in a correct manner. It was not stated that it was 100% correct. We both as government and employers association made errors. The purpose of the ILO, for those who may not know, we have local laws, kingdom laws, international laws. The decision was made to address the issue in which it was taken to court. Everyone has the free right. The court saw that there was no violation. The Court of Appeal in St. Martin. We then requested assistance from the said Netherlands. There was no unjust actions according to said Netherlands. So the next step, in which the Employers Association has the right, is to take it to ILO, international laws, in which we pleaded our case and they pleaded their case. Now the case provided with St. Martin, we got recommendations, but we were not placed on a provisional list. That is very important. Because of the presentation brought forward and the illustration on behalf of the government of St. Martin, we were not placed on provisional listing. The recommendations were given back from the ILO, in which in my article, I used the points verbatim, exact, some which are to ensure that the law and practice and the ability of workers and employers, organizations establish higher level organization in full freedom, including the purpose of participation in socio-economic council. The government had no part in selection of candidates, zero part in selection of candidates. As a matter of fact, the organization in which they have discrepancies with has always been a part of the said. Government represents everyone. And when you have small business sector, 80% of the business sector that felt that they were not represented and only a specific part, be it the hospitality sector, was represented, you facilitate. We facilitate elections, but we can't tell you who to vote for. Another aspect was to encourage dialogue. And I agree, dialogue was not had, but why? In 2022, we requested assistance from Caribbean ILO representatives who told us, we will try to mediate and ask government to stay out. Allow us to mediate. And this was stated to ILO as well and presented with emails that we requested assistance from the ILO. But a year later, we had not received assistance. Now, one of the points is to seek technical assistance. And in the meeting, we told them we did seek technical assistance. We sought it via email, and we also sought it during the ILO Caribbean regional meeting where we had a work group, and we did say how we will move forward. So we will take the recommendations up. I have assured them that St. Martin will not be called in front of the cast again. Once we are here, we will take this recommendation up. But it's important to note, and if you read my article, it's never negative against the employer or employee association. It was clearly stating that we should work together and we can work together for the benefits of St. Martin. Everything was not did in accordance. Something to note as well, I see also we speak of the abuse of the short-term contract and all of those things, and it's very important, and that's why I mentioned in press briefing, the civil code has been at the said for the longest. And I have emails from the organization to the Prime Minister stating if they don't retract the decision to put the SIA, they will not attend the meetings. Now, this holds the country stagnant because the same laws that the employee organization is now complaining about, the possible solution is at the same SER in which we have a stalemate. So I hope a request came in for a meeting with the employer association. I'm saying it publicly, meet with the employer association, along as Prime Minister gives me the blessing, along with her staff as well, and we will find a solution. But I want to make it clear, it's not a combative moment. It's not a moment for back and forth. It's a moment for solutions. And that's why we resort to ILO, the International Labour Organization experts, to assist us in how we can better our country. We are not the only country. We were not the only country brought in front of the cast. We are not going to be the first nor the last. But the idea is to improve from this.
Thank you, Minister Otley. Prime Minister Jacobs.
Yes, thank you. I think the minister did an excellent job in explaining what happened in his visit to Geneva and with the staff, etc. I think what maybe the general public isn't aware of is, as he mentioned before, when we came in, the SER had representation from employers. It was with the SHTA and the Chamber of Commerce. None of these two entities are actually registered as employers associations. So the interference that is being alluded to by the ECSM is a meeting held with the Prime Minister, my person, and Minister of General Affairs because I'm the one that signs the national decrees with the governor to appoint the members. Members needed to be appointed, and I was informed by the Secretariat and the sitting board chairman that these things had to change. So I said, go ahead and form the necessary associations needed. I did not handpick anyone. I did not say this one had to be in it and that one didn't. And as a matter of fact, shortly after, ECSM was founded and then the SEA was founded. As St. Martin, we recognize both organizations. In so doing, all employers, whoever they choose to be with, have the opportunity to be part of this. We recommended as government form an umbrella organization like the WICLU has. We have several unions, but they have an umbrella organization. None of them have to cease to exist, but now they have an umbrella, and that umbrella organization appoints the 3 members to the SER and appoints the representation on the tripartite with the government and employers. That's the recommendation. Why any entity would choose to call that interference is baffles me, and we have done everything to be able to resolve this. We are currently in the process, after the change of law, of getting the nominations from both employers and employees. That's an ongoing process, and both organizations, none took up my request to do it jointly, so each will nominate on their own, and we will proceed as soon as the law is enacted so that the necessary legislation that requires the perusal of the SER can take place, because that is the priority of this government. And any action we took was in that vein, to ensure that key legislation, at the time we were dealing with, everybody was asking for cost of living and all kinds of things after the hurricane, after the pandemic. And it was an urgent situation. So we have sent in several letters to the ILO, as Minister said, elucidating intentions as well as the court rulings. And the SER Netherlands said this is a purview of SER St. Martin and the government to deal with, continue to promote local affairs. So as Minister said, we've requested technical assistance. Hopefully now the intermediation or the mediation that was requested. And when they told us to hands off, that's when I decided not to meet again with the 2 organizations. So based on their recommendation at the time is why we didn't interfere, quote unquote, to bring both parties on the table. At the end of the day, to leave out any of them would deprive employers of representation on the SER. And as Minister mentioned, it is the ECSM who refused to take part at a certain moment. So not government telling them they couldn't, definitely not government. There's an organization. Let us respect the legislation. Let us move forward in the interests of the people of St. Martin as we are willing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Bibi, for the question. Judy Fitzpatrick of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Relika. Very good morning, ministers, colleagues. Prime Minister, graduation season is here. You mentioned some graduations that you attended. And I have a little bit of a concern, and I'm hoping that you would be able to assist me to get the information. The foundation-based education exit examination results came out in May. The Daily Herald, the first week in June, requested the top 10 students for the FBE exit examinations. My colleague did so. She's currently on vacation, and I started requesting the information now. It's been almost a month since the results came out, and we still haven't received it. Now, every country in the region highlights, promotes, celebrates their top students, and we are simply requesting the information so that we can highlight these hardworking top students. So I'm hoping that you can probably intervene so that I can get the top 10 FBE exit examination results students.
Sorry, can you say where you requested that?
My colleague requested it from the head of the department and the examination division, and I requested directly from the administration. Minister Otley, I do have a clarification based on what you mentioned about the after-hour GP care. Has the whole issue of insurance been sorted out? Because as it is at the moment, when you have SZV insurance, it is linked to a specific GP. So if I go to another GP that my insurance is not linked to, I have to pay out of pocket. So would persons who are using this aftercare, would their insurance be accepted, or how would it work, or would we have to pay? And that's my clarification for you, Minister. And my question, Prime Minister, can you give us an update on what the status is on the appointment of an acting governor? We see recently the governor has had several off-island assignments and so forth. So what is the status of that? And thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, and that's a very good question, and it has been disseminated. You've seen the article. Yes, your insurance will be able to be covered because we are understanding that it's a general, and some of the GPs will be a part of this, the GPs that you are regularly accustomed of going to. But yes, indeed. So if your doctor is not in at the time, it will count on your insurance, even if you have to see another, because it's a non-life-threatening emergency, still considered an emergency. So it will cover. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Otley. Prime Minister Jacobs.
On the request of Ms. Fitzpatrick, I'll follow up with the Ministry of ECYS. I'm not sure. I'll follow up with division exams to see what is the holdup in getting that information. And as it relates to the status of the acting governor, we have a procedure in place at the moment, or since back when His Excellency Governor Holliday was there, as to when they have to be off island for short periods of time and how we would deal with emergency pieces. So nothing is being hampered at this time, and hopefully upon his return, we'll be able to finalize that process and inform the general public. So hopefully, I mentioned earlier this month, hopefully by the end of the month.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs. Thank you, Judy. Stephen Cerulean of PJD2 Radio, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning to you, Prime Minister. Minister of the SA, good morning to you as well. If I may piggyback a bit on the question of my colleague, Prime Minister, now that the results are in, can you shed some light on the success rate of the FBA exams this year? The results we know are in for the FBA exams. Can you shed some light as to the success rate of students in this year's exams?
Okay, unfortunately, I'm not that in tune to the Education Ministry as I used to be, so I don't have that information at hand, but I will request that it be shared with you,
Thank you, Prime.
with the media.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Stephen. I would now like to invite Andrew Dick of St. Martin Daily News. You have the floor.
Thank you, and good morning to the ministers. Minister of BSA, just as a clarification, as far as the after hours for the emergencies, when exactly will it start? I didn't get the timeline exactly when persons can begin, and is it only one clinic for now? That's what's going to happen? And My question also has to do with the General Hospital. If you can give me an update, I know you had to do a walkthrough. We didn't hear anything after that, and that was a month ago. Thank you.
Perfect. So I'll start with the after-hour GP care. Yes, it'll only be at one clinic now. It's over the hill. I think that's the only question. Oh, when will it begin? We're in the process. They're looking at July 1st is the date that they're looking at, but we will put out a definite date. Everything is in process. So we're looking at July 1st to start the process. And then, like I stated, it'll be a 6-month pilot project in which we hope that we can continue. I do think it'll be a great benefit to the people of St. Martin. Also, as it pertains to the General Hospital, my next meeting is scheduled in mid-July. When I was there, they presented me a schedule. So the contract aspect has been finalized. There was some design aspect now that the medical center, the hospital, had to submit to the designer. That part I have not received an update on, but since I have been told that 2 new contractors have been added. I'm trying to turn this way so I can see Andrew. Yeah, 2 new contractors have been added, so they should increase the workforce. And like stated, my next update will be in July. So my last meeting was the final design basis because there were some alters to the design that St. Martin Medical Center had to submit. Okay, so I'll be able to update you more on our next meeting. But until then, a presentation was given to me on the amount of persons that were there prior to the 4th Amendment signing, which was 20 some odd persons, 24, 25. Now, since then, we have increased to 50 persons, including management, 50 plus work personnel. And it is expected, and I will say this publicly because they told it to me, so I'll hold it to them. It is expected by September, October to have the highest amount between 150 persons to 150 to 180 persons on the site based on the scheduling.
Thank you, Minister Otley, and thank you, Andrew.
Also, very sorry if I may,
Minister Otley?
also very important to note there were some unforeseens in relations where they had to have some mediations between them and the fire department as pertaining to the wall and the drainage, in which that caused a bit of delay, in which then the medical center said that they would then take up the cost. And then there were also some wiring along that in which they had to wait and get permission from Jibby. So all of these were aspects that before. But if you go now, you will see that since that has been taken up, the progress on the wall and the work alongside the fire department has commenced. So I just wanted to notify that I'm trying to, as I go, whatever was brought to me, I'm bringing to the media.
Thank you, Minister Otley. We now move on to the second round. Bibi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Relaika. Minister Otley, as I'll follow up on my colleague's question, can you give us the initial cost of the new General Hospital and what will be the projected cost upon completion? Just moments ago, you spoke about expanding the medical pool on St. Martin, allowing foreign doctors to be able to work on St. Martin. When exactly will this hospital be completed so that we can have the facilities necessary to have these doctors from overseas working here? And my other question is for the Prime Minister. Minister, Prime Minister Jacobs, there have been, I'd like to know if there is any candidate selected to fill the position on the Trust Fund Steering Committee, and there was an ad published to have the head of facility affairs. I think 12 candidates applied. Has any been selected? So is there someone to take up the position that is now vacant on the Trust Fund and the head of facility affairs?
Thank you for that. Those questions. The steering committee member candidate has been approved by the Council of Ministers, so we hope to be moving forward with that within short. This took place just recently. We had CoM yesterday. Yeah. As it relates to the ad that was placed for facilities management, at the same time, or I must say sometime before the ad was placed, we had a change management process ongoing within the department. And so based on the recommendations coming out of it, we've put the hiring on hold to ensure that the ad that was placed would meet the needs of, let's say, the restructured facility services moving forward. So in the meantime, our candidates should have received information about this, because the decision was taken before I left on my business travel. So I'd have to confirm that this was done, but that is what is being done. So the applicants will be put on hold until we can look at the restructured recommendations that have been brought forth and have taken a decision on it. In the meantime, the change management team will be ensuring that we start to make the necessary changes to be able to carry out efficient and effective services to the government services, but also to the vendors that we also have to use to be able to do so. So there's a lot that needs to be done, and we wouldn't want to say hire someone and the person doesn't meet based on the old requirements while we're in the process of restructuring the facilities management department. Yep.
Minister Otley.
Thank you, Ms. Shah. The exact amount of the hospital, I'm not able to, I don't want to misquote. I was trying to look for it in my emails. I can send it to you in writing, or I can gladly say it when I get it next breakfast briefing. I don't really have nothing to hide. As it relates to the completion date, there's two aspects. So where we see the structure going up, after that, there needs to be the destruction of the old hospital. So this new structure that we speak about that will be up is scheduled to be up in mid-2025, okay? The completion of the hospital is scheduled for Q2 2026 as a completion date. Destruction of the old hospital, parking lot, everything. So it's in segments right now because it is a hospital, but definitely, look, the hospital has been something that we, the people of St. Martin, has been promised for many years. It's something that we all look forward to. I am looking forward to it. I have stated above and beyond that the progress that we are seeing, the pace of the progress is not something that I'm happy and satisfied with. I am doing all I can do within my power, within my purview, because it's very funny that 1 minute, the minister, not from the medias, the minister needs to be involved, and then when the minister gets involved, it's, oh, he's too involved, he can't be involved with contractual agreements, and why is he there for the Fourth Amendment signing? So we have to be very careful, but in the interest of St. Martin, in the interest of my people, I will continue to keep the quarterly meetings, set deadlines, and notify you with nothing to hide, whether it's good or it's bad. So I take the good with the bad. I'm gonna send it to you. I'll send it to you.
Thank you, Minister Otley, and thank you, Bibi. Judy, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. I have some clarifications, Minister.
Judy, can we just ensure it's one clarification and one question?
Okay. So I will go with the issue of the non-emergent care, Minister. Has it been sorted out? Because, for example, if someone with an emergency goes to the medical center and they need to be administered medication, the hospital has medication, they have a pharmacy there. If someone goes to the non-emergent care facility, let's say 11 p.m., and they need some sort of medication, but the pharmacies are closed, has an agreement been reached or something worked out with a pharmacy to be opened so that that can happen, so that persons needing medication at that time can have that? That's my clarification. And Prime Minister, the Integrity Chamber, they've issued a scathing report on the whole issue of the bidding process within government, and they've listed some medications. They've listed some recommendations. I know you are not the minister responsible for this, but you are the Prime Minister. So I will ask you if you have any indication as to how this will be dealt with by the administration. Thank you so much.
Minister Otley.
Thank you, Mrs. Patrick. You have some of the most amazing questions. I really do like your questions because I think it's very good. Actually, yes, there is an agreement. The SMDC will be able to prescribe you medication for 2 to 3 days maximum. So, yeah, there will be So you will be able to receive your medication, and that's why we stated it's basic care. Basic needs, and you will be able to get it there. So that has been thought of. The agreement has been made, and so it's just about 2 to 3 days to get you by. As we have seen many situations as well where persons go to the medical center, and then they will be like, okay, you need to see your GB. So we hope that this can definitely alleviate. And I thank you for your questions.
Prime Minister Jacobs.
Thank you, Rolika. As it relates to the Integrity Chamber report, as you know, this is why I say we have checks and balances up to our ears in St. Martin, and so we are constantly reviewing reports and taking recommendations along. I know that there has already been a concerted effort for the establishment of finalizing the procurement policy and or legislation. Whatever legal basis is still lacking, and all the recommendations that have been made will be taken along. As you know, procurement also falls under the comptabilities legislation, which falls by the Ministry of Finance as well. So we all have a role to play, and we have, as government, determined that that is an important one to deal with. I also had, let's say, a tender done recently, in which when we evaluated, we were not satisfied with it, and it will be redone. It does cause, of course, stagnation in projects, but we want to make sure we do it the right way. So, and that relates to the Festival Village that is being retendered. So just in case you hadn't heard, yes.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Judy, for the question. Stephen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Rich. Prime Minister of the BAT, we know that elections will be held in roughly 7 months from now. What we don't know, though, is whether or not you have pinpointed a date for elections to take place. And maybe you can also give us an idea as to what's taking place with electoral reform.
Let me repeat, Minister Artie, you just come with the good questions. Indeed, those are very key questions. I've been asked these questions, I think, every time I sit here or go in an interview. The date hasn't been ascertained yet. You would think it would be a simple snap of the fingers. We figured out that even some legislation that we thought had already reached a further process since we started was actually stagnated as well. So we're in the process to get that done, having legislative lawyers available. So Legal Affairs reviewed some legislation that was there, and we now are looking for the legislative lawyers to amend it, address the changes that are needed for the snap election one that we thought was already done. We're also looking at where electoral reform is concerned, other smaller changes that can be made within the time-free period that would affect this election. But like I've said in previous press briefings, the engagement that I wanted to have with the public did not take place. We have the survey, so I've determined that we will just share the results of the survey, generate some buzz in terms of feedback from people who would do so on social media, and at least get one in before the summer ends. I know summer isn't a good time, but I'm still working for most of the summer, so I'm going to do my best to, this is a goal I'm putting out there, which I hope I don't have to disappoint both myself and the public on, because I think it's important. As it relates to the date, I just got back in the weekend, and I have not been able to sit with the relevant authorities to determine that. So as I told you, I was planning a meeting. It's not yet taken place. I don't just make statements and give dates without having proper advice from those who would have to execute. So checking all of the legislation, et cetera, et cetera. So do give me the time. I will definitely come back to you on that, and I regret that I have not been able to do so thus far.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Stephen. Andrew, you have the floor.
Thank you. Prime Minister, concerning the Managing Director for Winair, our national carrier. Now, we received reports that a Dutch candidate has been selected as the managing director, the next managing director for that company. Does the Council of Ministers or this government have an issue with local aviation professionals taking to the top helm at our companies? Thank you.
Very interesting question. You know that story, they say, damned if you do, damned if you don't? I think this is another case. Minister mentioned it just now. You get the outcry, government, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Then you get the outcry, government, you're over-involved. Here is where corporate governance comes to play. Winair is a government-owned company. Yes, a shared government-owned company at that. We do own the majority shares as St. Martin. Since last year, the sitting director CEO was coming to the end of his tenure. The recommendation was to extend. Government did not agree. We said no, hire a new, give our locals opportunity to apply, etc. A transparent and thorough process was utilized in which, yes, there were some local candidates as well. And I am not going to sit on the seat of the professionals who evaluate those things. We looked at the recommendations, we looked at the evaluations that were made, and the recommendations from the supervisory board, and government took its decision based on what is best for the company at this time. Seeing that a local did not make the top cut, we did request, and we're busy preparing a letter to go out to all government-owned companies to ensure that there is a policy to make it more feasible that persons who show the promise within the company, that they get the opportunity either to be, counterparts or to receive the necessary training. So in the tenure of the incoming CEO, it is being recommended that a local that had scored closer, the highest out of the other locals, then I should say, to be able to have the opportunity to train or get a director position within the company so that they can move forward. I'm saying more than I should because it's unfortunate when people use their platforms to promote their own narratives of whatever they think the public would want to hear. Today for me, tomorrow for you. In another case, they might turn around and say, oh, because it's such and such that gets hired, it's nepotism. So let us please respect processes. We want to grow as a country, then we must learn to adhere to, if you put out a bid or you put out a open ad stating an ad, you have to then take along what comes. And if you're going to reject the best person for the job, you have to have really good reasons to do so. We've taken decisions in the past and put people that we want to put because they're local, and then we turn around and then we have to remove them as well. Are we going to say we're going to leave a local in a position that they're not quite fit for just because they're a local? So with that being said, we have locals all over the world. I encourage them to also, who have more experience, who have that helicopter view for the type of job that this requires, I encourage you, when you see those ads, to apply. St. Martin wants to promote our own. And so that letter will be going out, that a clear policy is made to ensure that we can raise up our local persons. But to manage a company is not the same as having 30 years of experience in operations. Let's keep that clear. You need a helicopter view. You need to be able to do things at a strategic level. So get the necessary training. Upgrade yourselves. There are courses galore, and we have them also on our Coursera available. So I encourage that we will set the policies in place. We will encourage, but we cannot change a situation that rolls out the way it does without then having to explain, because you get advice also. You have to request advice also from the Corporate Governance Council, which is a transparent process. So to deviate, you must have very strong reasons. And in this case, we went with what we thought was best for the company at this time.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs. Members of the media, this does bring us to the end of the question and answer session as we are cramped for time. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. For rebroadcast, tune into St. Martin Gov Radio via 107.9 FM, Telems Tel TV Plus Channel 15, the official Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin, and YouTube channel Government of St. Martin. For video on demand, log on to the Government of St. Martin's YouTube channel. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Martin, I'm Relaika Roach and wishing you a pleasant day further.